I'm about to review The End of Time as a whole, the latest Doctor Who specials that came out. And the reason I'm reviewing it as a whole is not because I'm doing the normal cop-out that most fans did by saying, let's wait until the second part. Because honestly, I didn't have time. So, we start at part 1. It was a bunch of different things that you really could hardly follow. Which was mainly the point, I think. It was supposed to be this mad dash. It's one of the things that I think officially puts Wilfred in as a companion now, although that's going to be one of those debates. Well, he only took one trip. The way he helped the Doctor and everything, to me, a companion isn't rated by whether they took a lot of trips or not. A companion is rated on how their relationship with the Doctor was, and things like that. That's why I believe that unit, or at least the specific members, like Captain Yates, Lethbridge Stewart, people like that, were part of it. The ones that we always saw whenever the Third Doctor was around, because they helped the Third Doctor out. They were his companions at the time. Family, if you will. But yeah, it made me happy that Wilf became, in my opinion at least, a companion, because he is one of my favorite characters, and I will actually say it, one of my favorite companions now. Because he added something different to it. He was the, as Trevor and Marty say it on the Who cast, what's this Doctor? Who's this Doctor? How does that work, Doctor? But at the same time, he had this level of wonder with everything that just made it more than that. It made it more of a deep-level companion instead of a blundering idiot wandering around wondering, oh, what's going on? The ending was a bit surreal. I'll admit the head-shaking effect was a bit odd, but how else are you going to have that happen, really? There's got to be some cheesy effect, no matter what. Any effect I could think of to change everyone into the Master would have been equally as cheesy as the head-shaking thing. There's really no proper way to do that. As the first part, the one scene that I remember, as from what I've been hearing everyone remembers, is the scene with the Doctor and Wilf in the cafe. Excuse me. I loved that scene because it gave you some insight into a generation. It made me rethink it, really. Because the whole time, especially considering I've already gone through it, but I'll explain that later. Considering you just think, boom, in this case new series, because they copped out and did the same Shining thing. They went with Russell T Davies' thing about it should always look the same, which I disagree with. That was part of the classic series finesse, is that as a new Doctor came around, the regeneration always looked different, making a new, different person. But, as a result, it made me think about it. He said the phrase, and I don't know if I'm quoting this properly or not, but I'll get the gist of it. While I sit here and some new guy saunters off in my place, I've died. And he said it with such resentment that it really made you think about what regeneration really means. Because, on one hand, you think, the way I always thought was, well, the Doctor hasn't died, he's just changed. But, when you put it that way, it makes you rethink the process a bit. He has died, only that specific version of him has died. There's no more adventures for the 10th Doctor now. And the 11th Doctor is taken over now. Much to the chagrin of a lot of fangirls. But then we go to part 2, the main part, the Time Lord's coming back. The Time Lords coming back is one of those odd things, because I was happy for it, but horrified at the exact same time. I put on my Twitter feed that I have never been more horrified and ecstatic at the end of a first part of a two-parter in my entire life. Because at the same time, I thought, the Time Lords are back, yay, but at the same time I'm thinking, oh my lord, the Time Lords are back in the middle of a crisis like this. They're so powerful, if you've got enough classic knowledge to know so, that and there's trouble. Especially if you take the audio dramas like I do. I know there's a big controversy among fans as to what you take in your canon, but for me, I actually take the Big Finish audio dramas in my controversy, which means that the Time Lords have even been capable, in my canon, of erasing people from existence that they didn't like. No one remembering them, which of course they did that in the War Games. The first appearance of themselves. But it was done on a grandiose scale in the audio dramas, to where essentially anyone that they didn't like in their corrupt time, they just took them to a little chamber and erased them from existence. No one even remembered they existed. Which is a sad thought, really. But the Time Lords were one of the most powerful and yet corrupt races. Little things I noticed going through it was mainly near the end, is what I've noticed. The Donna thing was underplayed, though. We were all scared to death, which it was kind of buried along everything anyway, but we were scared to death she was going to die, and then all of a sudden, poof, and there we are. She's fine again and doesn't remember everything. That was kind of glossed over, in my opinion. It could have had more drama to it. Meanwhile, we got to see a new side of Wilfred, a darker side, where he's not just this cheery old man. He's a man that's prepared to fight if he has to. We get to the Time Lords, and he said the phrase to the character that Timothy Dalton was played. He called him Rassilon. Now, whether that means that they resurrected Rassilon, or he was just, as some person put it, like you would call someone Hitler, but they're not actually Hitler, then it's possible that he was just calling him Rassilon in reference to the most corrupt Time Lord that ever existed. Even if you don't take the audio dramas into account, the episodes that mention Rassilon, and you can tell he was slightly wonderful, but at the same time he was the most corrupt being in the universe. He practically sent Omega to his death to take all the glory for himself, while Omega was just locked up. In my opinion, anyway. But the moment where he had the gun, the man that never would, holding a gun, it showed a darker depth to the 10th Doctor, and it started to make me worry. Before we even started the end of time, I thought they had better not send him off a broken man. I don't think any doctor should be left broken. That the Doctor is the Doctor. He needs to continue on. But he went back and forth, and then finally snapped back to himself, realizing he could shoot the machine and not kill anyone. So then all of the lights happen, he's back to normal. He's in this ecstatic moment of he's still alive. Then the heartbreaking moment. Wilfred knocks 4 times. That was brilliant. I bet everyone's heart sank when that happened too. It was... The whole time we were expecting the Master to be the one to knock 4 times because of the rhythm, and then Wilfred is the one that knocks 4 times, and it just makes your heart sink. It's brilliant writing, and completely unexpected.